Hi everyone! In this video I'll show you my Advent calendar tree. If you'd like to use my Design Space project, you can find a link in the description right under this video. It's a link to my Facebook group. That's where I share my projects. We're starting this project in Design Space because it's a large project, and whenever I share something like this, I like to walk you through what all the elements are because there may be a different way you need to proceed with cutting it out. In this case, there is a different way you'll want to cut it out. So we'll start by looking at the base of the tree. It's these brown pieces here that I'm moving. You can see that I haven't done a cutout for the opening on them because they should be solid boxes. They're under the body of the tree. They would be difficult to open anyway, so we just make these into solid boxes. We can glue them closed so they don't open at all. In this case, you'll need 5, and I did put 5 on the canvas. So when you go to cut, you'll cut one set of 5. This is an optional tree skirt. You can or don't use it, whichever you prefer. It's 2 layers. I think I'm going to cut mine out of chipboard and decorative paper, but I haven't decided for sure yet. This tree skirt is completely optional. You can cut it if you want to or not, and we'll set it aside. This is a dimensional star for the topper of the tree. I'll show you how to use it. If you don't want to use it, don't cut it out. You can change it up for a big bow or an ornament or something that you have that you like and that you'd like to add to the top of the tree, or another project to put on top. Completely up to you, so again, optional. So in these 3 pieces, the star, the base, and the skirt, you will only cut one set of each. I'm going to hide these now to take them off the screen so that it's clear what I'm going to show you next. We'll scroll up here for the whole group. Where is it hiding? Got it. And I'll hide the stars also because I want to show you these. These are decorative layers to put on top of your little boxes on the body of the tree. Once again, if you don't want to decorate the boxes with patterned paper or glitter or whatever, you just hide this in the layers panel. You will need, if you're going to use it, you will need 4 cuts for each box. So in this case, you'll be cutting 26 sets. So when I cut this layer, I cut it alone. I click Make It, change the quantity to 26, and apply. I've put 4 in the group because you need the front, 2 sides, and the top. So that would be 26 for the 26 boxes, and I'll explain why so many boxes. I'm just going to hide that for now. And for the body of the box, I've attached 2 together and these little tabs that we're going to use. This will fit on a 12 by 12 sheet. You can see it's just about 10 by 11 when it's attached together. You want 13 sets like this. That will give you a total of 26 boxes. I know that an advent calendar is only 24 boxes, but in order for the math to work on this project, you need to cut 26. You'll have a 25th box in the body of the tree that you can glue entirely closed. You can just decorate. You can number it if you prefer and put an extra little gift in it. That's totally up to you, but you do need those 25 boxes in the body of the tree and a 26th box that would act as a topper where you would put your little decorative ornament on top. If you don't want to use that 26th box, you don't have to, but it will become a lot clearer as I show you the assembly. So with this set, I'm going to ungroup first so that I can hide this text. I don't need that to cut. Then we'll click Make It. And at the top, I'm going to change my quantity to 13 and click apply. And you'll see that I needed 13 sheets of cardstock for the body of the box. Let's click cancel. I'm going to hide this and we'll go back to those red squares, ungroup it, hide the text. We don't want to cut that, and click make it. I'll click on the mat, done. And as mentioned, you'll need 26 sets if you're putting decorative layers on all the boxes. If you're just going to put them on half the boxes, then you'll do 13 sets. So in this case, I'll put 26 and tap apply. And you'll see for decorative layers, you'll need 5 sheets of 12 by 12. Of course, the amount of sheets you'll use will change if you're using 12 by 24 or 12 by 18 or 19. Whatever size paper, you will adjust it. Let's say I'm using 12 by 19. In that case, I'll need 3 sheets. That's all I wanted to show you about this project. I'm going to cut my pattern out, switch to my overhead camera, and I'll show you how to assemble this advent calendar tree. Before we get started assembling the Christmas tree, the advent calendar tree, I wanted to show you a couple of things that were not included at the beginning of this video. So I did cut out my numbers, the set I'm going to use. I cut them from glitter vinyl. I put them on a separate design space file. No use to bog down the original file with more graphics, and so I did use a separate file. I'll add the link to it in my post in case you want to use it. Of course, you're not obliged to use them. You can use whatever you like to decorate your tree. These are the glitter numbers that I'm going to use. So I'll just set that aside. Something else that wasn't in the file when I started recording that you're going to see is a group of circles. The reason why I cut these circles is when I cut this sample tree, I noticed that you see some openings that I really didn't like. I didn't like those openings. I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the gaps you see. This one is really large because I didn't put this on straight, but I didn't like those gaps. So I'll just grab a few of these layers. For this one, I found that if you just add a little circle add it in the same color as your decorative paper, or if you're not using decorative paper and you're just going to have whatever color box, add the circle in the same so that it's not super obvious. But you can see, these aren't glued together, but you can see that it would hide those big gaps that you might get. This way you don't see them. It's a little hard to show you when it's not assembled. I can show you again. So I cut a lot of different sizes, and I tried the ones that fit best for all the layers, and I've included them in the file now. I've saved them in the file so you have them. You can use them or don't use them. It's completely up to you. If you don't mind seeing the gaps, then don't use them. Totally up to you. I also find that it makes it a lot easier to glue your next layer because you don't have a hole in the center. And when you put on the circle, it keeps your boxes solid instead of wiggling around without the circle. So I kind of like that. But that, again, as I mentioned, is totally up to you. You can do it or not. So we'll set that aside and these aside. These are the ones I didn't like the fit. I think I'll start with my star. I cut this star out of Cricut glitter cardstock. I think I should have used something a little thinner because this is really solid, hard to score, but it might work. And since I have a cut out already, I will give it a try. So you're going to fold the scores down the center. we'll just add some adhesive, make sure we get it on the points, and then put them together. I also noticed that with the cardstock you see a white edge with this glitter cardstock. But I took out my gold pen so I can always trace right along the edge to cover that white. So that looks good. We'll add another side. Whoops, upside down. There we go, just line it up. I guess you could have made it just 3 sides, but because it's going on top of a cube, which obviously has 4 sides, I thought I would make it 4-sided. Up to you once again if you just want to do 3. That's good. And we'll add the 4th piece. You just want to make sure you get the glue into those points. I won't put this one on upside down. That wasn't a good idea in the first place. Okay. And the final piece we'll just glue down. There we go. There's my 4-sided star. That's included in the file. Of course, you can use it or not, whichever you prefer. And this I'm going to glue on top of my cube to make a topper for the tree. I'll let this finish drying and then I'll just go over the edges with my gold marker to hide the white. And to glue it on, I'm just going to put some glue on the tips of the bottom and glue it on. And with this Tombow glue, I'm pretty sure it'll stay. And that'll be my topper for my tree. So we'll just set this aside. Okay, so let's move on to finishing the base. So this is the tree skirt that I included in the file. For the white layer, I just used cardstock. I'm not going to be gifting this tree. I'm just doing it for my video. The book advent calendar that I made those for my grandchildren. So this is really just to demonstrate in the video. So I just use white cardstock. You can use chipboard. You could use, what works really well is the backing from the cardstock packs. The Cricut cardstock packs have a really nice backing that works well. It's solid enough, but it cuts easily. I used it in the book calendars, and I cut them on light chipboard. I used the light chipboard setting to cut them. So this is the base, these brown boxes. On my demo, I used more of a tan color. On this one, I used the brown. I don't know which I prefer. But I wanted to show you that you can see in the file that they're a different color from the main boxes. And there's no, if you see the cutout for opening on the main boxes, I haven't put those cutouts On the boxes for the base, I just made them solid. So I'm going to close it up. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. There, that's better. And I'll just add a little adhesive to it. You don't have to, but I'm doing it just to make sure that they don't open. And we'll just push it back in and let it dry like that. So it's a solid cube. And this part that did open, I will put it on the bottom downwards. So that's how it works. So you can see that this is done like a chain. Let's move this away. That's what you're using these little tabs for. So there's a score line down the center. You just fold them in half on the score line. Put adhesive on one side. It doesn't have to be super neat. And you'll just line it up with the edge of the last box. So I'll pick this up so you can see it. You just line it up on the edge. Then we'll put some more adhesive on this side. And we'll just line these up and press it down. And this is how you're making your chains so that you form your layers in circles. That's the last box for the base. Your base is made out of 5 boxes. Okay, and we'll use our last tab to join the cubes together. There we go. I'll put adhesive on this side. Line it up. Add more adhesive. It might be hard to see on this dark color what I'm doing, but you'll see it more on this row when I do assemble that. So just create your circle, line them up. And there you go. So see what I mean about how they can move? That was another reason why I liked adding those aprons in between, because it kept it more solid. But on this layer, it's not possible to show any gaps because the next layer is larger. So your edges are completely covered. So there's no chance that you're going to see any gaps. So this, if you're using the tree skirt, optional of course, you will just glue this base down onto the tree skirt. So let's go ahead and do that. You don't need a lot of glue. There we go. And we'll try to center it up. That looks pretty good. And we can let that dry so that it's ready when we start adding our tree layers. I'll just set this aside and we'll move on to assembling our rows for the tree. And here we are again. So my star has dried and I tried using my gold pen on the bottom where it wasn't visible, and I don't like the color that it looks, so I'm going to glue this on. I'll just leave it the way it is, and then I'll go, I believe I have a gold gel pen with glitter, and I'll go find that afterwards and color the edges with that. I think I will like it better than the solid gold. So I'm just going to take a scrap piece of paper and get some glue, and I'm just going to dip the bottom points in the glue. I think that should be enough. To help it stay on. Give it a try. I'll do that now and let it dry while we assemble the rest. Okay, so for the boxes, as I mentioned at the beginning, you have 26 boxes. The reason why you have more than the normal 24 is because in order to arrange your tree, you need 25 boxes for the math to work. You have 7 on your bottommost row. We're not counting the base. The base is a separate 5 boxes. So your bottommost row is 7. Then you have 6, 5, 4, and 3, and your topper if you choose to use it. If not, perhaps I've seen them with a large bow on top. Also, I saw with a small easel card on top, something like that. Whatever you choose to use is going to be perfect, I'm sure. So that's why you have 25 boxes. The 25th box, if you don't want to use it for a gift, you can glue it permanently closed, as I did with the cube. I should have showed you that before I put the star on. I'll show you when it's dry. If you want to not use it for a gift, you could glue it closed and just put a decoration on it, a bow or a Merry Christmas sticker, something like that. Or you can use it for a 25th gift. Completely up to you. I will use mine for a 25th gift if I was giving it away. But this, as I mentioned, is just a demo. So all the boxes throughout the whole thing, the cube for the top, the base, and the body of the tree are all made from the same type of box. So you have all your score lines. I'll start just by folding all my score lines. I fold them all and then burnish them all at once. There's lots of score lines. I prefer also to score and to fold all the scoring before I add my decorative layers. It's much easier to line it up if your score lines are already folded. And at the top, just make sure I get that one straight. Looks good. At the very end, and again on this side. Whoops, I did that one crooked. That's better. There we go. All my score lines folded, so I'll just burnish them to make sure they're nice and crisp. Just do this on every score line. And there we go. So that's all ready. Now I'm going to add the decorative layers, and I've done this exact same thing for every box. So you want to start with the tail of this cutout facing you. especially if you're using directional cardstock, if your pattern has a direction to it. In this case, I want this little gold diamond shape to be facing up, like I did on these. I want it to be facing up. That's that solid one. So I'm got the tail of the box pointing towards me. This is the tab that tucks in. And I'm making sure that the cardstock that I want facing up is also facing towards me when I glue it in. Turn it around and make sure that it's facing towards me. Just center it up. Okay, now I'm going to turn this whole piece around and I'm going to add the rest of the decorative layers. Once again, if you're using a directional pattern, a directional cardstock, you want it to be facing towards you when you apply it. There's my centerpiece, and I have the two outside. Line these up. And you'll notice that we're not putting any extra cardstock on these two areas because they are the back and the bottom. The bottom is glued down and the back is inwards and covered, so you're not going to see them. So there's no use putting extra cardstock on the back and the bottom. There we go. That's all the decorative layers. So turn it again in your hand, and you're going to put adhesive on these two tabs. Right under this long piece, these two tabs, that is going to fold up and adhere, and it's going to become the bottom of the box. So we add adhesive. This box is all in one piece, easy to assemble. It's just that you're making a lot. If you make them all, you're making 26. So you don't want to do this at the last minute. You want to give yourself time to do a really nice job. So there we fold it in and up. And that's the bottom of the box. Just make sure it's lined up nice and straight on the edges so that the box will close properly. I'm just going to take a second to press it down so that it dries nice and straight. There we go. And these two tabs become the back wall of the box. So we'll fold this out of our way and add some more adhesive. And we fold this down. Just line it up. And I press them down. That's all there is to it. I tuck in the two side flaps and the top, and the box is assembled, and the paper is facing in the direction I wanted it to. I wanted this diamond shape facing up towards the opening. And that's done. So I prefer to make all my boxes in advance. In this case, I kept one loose to show you how I glue it together. But I prefer to make them all in advance, then start creating the chains. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. There is no 2. It goes right from 3 to your top cube if you use it, or to your decoration if you don't use it. So that's all the boxes done. Now we'll continue by making the chain. When you make your chains, you want to make sure that the front are all facing front and the tops are all facing top. Believe me, I've put one on backwards once in a while, and I just did this again. So make sure that these are all facing the right direction. Flip it over, and we're going to start adding those little tabs that we use as hinges. So as I showed you on the brown one, I know it was difficult to see on the dark cardstock. So I've added adhesive on one side of this fold. I'm going to put it on and line it up right along the edge. Nice and even with the edge. Hold it down for a sec. Then I'll add some more adhesive. And I'm going to add a box. Make sure it's facing, as I mentioned, make sure it's facing in the right direction and just press it down. Make sure it's even on the sides, your boxes, so that it looks nice when it's finished. And it's level when you add the other layers. And your hinge is ready. So we have 2 more to add. I think I could have put a little more adhesive on this one. Add a little more. I don't want it to come apart. Okay. So we do that again. Right along the edge. I hope you can see that. Right even with the edge of the box. Add another box in the right direction. Add some more adhesive. We'll just press it down, hold it for a sec, give it a second to dry. And our last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Even with the edge of the box. Make sure this is facing the right way. That's perfect. And the last hinge we put on is to join them all together. And we have an extra hinge And don't worry, you didn't make a mistake. The reason why you have an extra one is because the cube doesn't require a hinge to be attached. So you will have one left over. Okay, that one's nice and dry. And then we're just going to form it into a circle like this. So we'll add some adhesive on this last hinge. And put it together. That should be perfect. And I want to try out this largest circle, and you can see that it fits very nicely. Just line it up. There we go. You just have to play with it a little to line it up to get it how you want it. So I'm just going to take this off. I'll add some adhesive on. You don't need a lot. I put a lot on this first one. Just add some adhesive around the edges. And then we'll put the circle back on. And you may have to fuss with it a little to make sure you get it in the right place, as I just did before. That looks good. And don't worry about any excess glue if you got it in the wrong place, like I did on the edges. That's no big deal. It's all going to be covered. We'll just let that dry. And I like that it keeps it solid, that you're not having the boxes wiggling all over the place. This should be dry, and it is. So while this dries a little bit and we assemble our tree, I just wanted to show you this cube. This is the 26th box. You can see that it had an opening cut in it. But what I did was cut 5 pieces of decorative paper, 4 sides and the top, and I had this opening face down, glued it closed, and added this decorative paper right on top of it so that it's a solid cube, so that it won't be opened. I like the way that looks. Okay, this should be solid enough. So let's get our base back. That's dried. And we're ready to put these together. As you add each layer to it, you'll want to check it, make sure it's kind of centered. You know that this layer with the 7 boxes, the first layer, is going to be wider than the base. That's how you want it. You just want to make sure that it's kind of even. So I'm checking it around and I know how I want to place it. So I'm just going to turn it over and add some adhesive on the bottom or the inside edge of each one. And I'll place it back. And before it dries, I'll check it again. To make sure I like how it's installed. That looks pretty even. So we'll keep that one this way. So that's your 7 boxes, your base, and your skirt installed. Okay, so we'll start from the bottom, and you can see I did put a circle on each one. This layer is 6 boxes, So it's going to be diagonal, not straight, of course. So I like how that looks. So once again, I'll just flip it over and add some adhesive. And because you have these circles, which I find really handy, you don't have to worry that you're putting the adhesive in the wrong place because you don't have that opening where there's nowhere to glue. So it's much easier to work with. Center that up. Make sure that we're not covering any of the openings. That one needs to turn a little. Try that way. That's better. Let me just center it up. Make sure it looks centered before it dries. You want to make sure that your tabs are all free so that you have access to open the box. That looks good. So we have 7, 6. Now we'll add the layer of 5. Turn it over once again and add our glue. That looks good. On each layer, you're going to check and double check to make sure you're not covering any of the openings. That looks good. And I like having these little skirts underneath the circles that I've added because I don't see any large gaps, which I really like. You can see how it's coming along. And there's no visible large gaps. I really like that. Now, layer with 4 boxes. That looks good. Check that out. Need to turn that a little because I don't want to be covering the tab. I call it a tab, the opening, I mean. That looks good. And our final layer, number 3. I have to see how we want to put that one on. I don't like this opening here, so maybe turn it a little. Nope, that one lines up too much. So you're going to fuss a little so that they're not lining up one perfectly in a row. You don't want that, you want them to be staggered. I think that looks good. You're always going to like one side better than the other. Like all things we craft, there's always something we like better than the other. That looks good. You can see how it's coming. And finally, my cube for the top with my star. That's going to be sweet. I'll add some adhesive to this one. I like the four-sided star on the top because no matter how you turn it, you see the star. Yeah, that's cute. Just make sure it dries on. And that's it, all assembled. So it does look more complicated than it actually is. I want to make sure this is stuck well before I tip it so that I can show you how it looks. But I'll post a full photo also so you can see better how it looks. I hope you're going to enjoy this project. Please post pictures in the group if you make any. I'd love to see them. Thank you for watching.